Years. So part one to using queen rearing being sustainable in your own apiary, it's just less expensive. I mean, the amount of queens you can produce with a low cost, like in 2020, I wanted to start queen rearing. So I looked at the cost of how much it'd be to buy a queen cell frame, queen cell bar frame, and then the actual bars and the cups. And I couldn't believe it. It was like less than $80. So maybe $100 now, inflation, that's how it goes. But the point still stays the same. The amount you have to pay to start queen rearing to how much you're gonna get from queens, like let's say you make 3 queens successfully, most of your grafts fail. Well, you still made money because that $40 queen, you just got 3 of them. And so what do you know? You've already made back your investment. So queen rearing is very inexpensive to get into and has a lot of potential upside even if you're not selling queens. If you're just keeping them for yourself, you're saving yourself so much money by creating quality queens that are produced for you all summer and build up your colonies very strong during the springtime. So queen rearing also helps you understand the bees. To successfully rear queens, you have to understand the bees in a lot of ways that many hobby beekeepers don't understand. If you are going through and you are making them queenless and you are taking away all their young brood, you understand the mechanics of the queen. In like one queen rearing method, what you're doing is you're using the emergency response by taking away their queen and all their young brood and then giving them new larvae. So you understand the pheromones in the hive, what it does for the bees, and how they're going to react to it. So you're going to be a better beekeeper simply from being able to rear queens, meaning that you understand the biology of the bees, which may not seem applicable, but it absolutely is. As you continue your beekeeping journey, it will be very important for you to understand the biology of the bees and how they react to certain stimuli, which you're experimenting with in a certain way when you're making queens. In the spring of 2019, I had 0 viable colonies. I had 1 colony that was teetering on the edge of death and it had a drone layer. I had no other viable colonies. Now this spring, I have 15 viable colonies and I've only bought a handful of queens, maybe 5 since then, because I started making queens in 2021. And it just changes everything because you're able to get quality stock that you're breeding into your hives. And if you make walkaway splits, they can work, but you have lost a lot of time. It takes about 30 days from the time you make a walkaway split for the queen to come back. And so you've wasted a lot of time. And the queens they make are not as good as the ones you're gonna graft on average. May not be the case always, but if you're making a walkaway split, they can be not as well fed and it's just not an ideal situation. They'll choose larvae that's older. And if you're choosing larvae that's younger than the ones they would in an emergency situation, which you're causing with a walkaway split, then those queens are going to be fed for a longer time and therefore are probably going to be better than the ones, the grafted ones are going to be better than the ones you make with the walkaway splits. And so the flexibility it allows you when you're making your own queens to grow your own operation, whether that be just hobbyist to sideliner or just within your hobby operation. If you have 5 hives, I think it's worth it to make queens. You might say, oh, that's too much work. It's not going to do anything for me. It absolutely will. When you start making your own queens, it dramatically decreases the amount of money you're going to have to spend. So even if you don't want to make it a business, you're going to be losing a lot less money into your hobby if you make your own queens. During last year, I doubled my hive count, more than doubled. I went from 7 to 18 and they weren't too weak. I lost 3, but vast majority of them are pretty strong. And so it just allows you to grow a lot faster. And I haven't bought a single queen since 2021. So all of them have been my own stock and I get to see what's been done to them. I know that they've laid in their mating nukes before I use them for a long time, because if they don't, Bob Binney likes to talk about this a lot. I'll link the video above. Then the queens are inferior. If they lay in their mating nuke for 2 to 3 days and all they have is eggs or very young larvae, they're not going to be as good at queens as when you buy a queen from a queen breeder that leaves them in and lets them cap their own brood, which takes 10 days. And so commercial beekeepers don't make as much money because they can get less rounds of queens in. even though they would be high quality if they waited an extra 6 or 7 days. This is really the thing that excites me the most about queen rearing is I'm really going to start becoming a queen breeder, not a queen producer. So right now I'm producing queens. You ask, what's the difference? Well, I'm producing queens, but I don't know if I'd say I'm really breeding queens because I'm not picking specific traits. Even if I pick my best hive, I wouldn't really consider that breeding because you have no criteria, but I'm just going to choose my best hive. So in the future, I'm going to be getting into doing Harbo assays, which is testing for how the bees suppress the mite reproduction. So you're testing, if you see a mite in that cell, how many babies it has. And so Corey Stevens has got it. So all of his breeder queens, they have 100% mite suppressed reproduction. So all the mites that are on the bees, or that get into the cells, 0 of them are reproducing. And so I'm going to use that Harbo assay and potentially the unhealthy brood odor spray to test my bees. And so I'm going to be breeding bees, not producing bees. And so I'm really excited to breed for the mite resistance, as well as I'm really going to focus hard on having the bees that have more Carniolan or Caucasian influence. I want these bees to be extremely frugal. I want them to be overwinter on like 30 or 40 pounds of food. I'm going to feed them more than that, but I want to have that peace of mind that even if I don't get enough feed into them during the winter, those bees are not going to eat me out of house and home and die in March or February or January. They are very frugal and they will explode when the time's right, but they won't expand too early and run out of food. So it'll save you a lot of money if you focus on breeding your stock towards your specific goals and what works for your environment. Lastly, creating a potential income stream. So not everyone wants to be a commercial beekeeper or a sideliner beekeeper, but if you're a hobbyist and you got a couple buddies, you can sell a few queens to them and bank some money. It can't hurt. It's not that hard. If you focus on watching some great videos, like Cayman Reynolds has a bunch of videos, I'll link some of them up here. He has a whole queen rearing playlist. If you make those great queens and you sell a few of them every year, then that's all well and good. You know, it can't hurt to have a potential income stream using cells. So they're a lot more economical and people need to use them a lot more. I'll link a video up here about Paul Kelly's queen cell method or cooler to transport queen cells. Extremely easy. It's a hot water bottle and a cooler. Like, it doesn't get much more simple than that. Put some wood shavings on top of the hot water bottle and that's it. So queen cells need to be used more and they're great income potential. They have great income potential if you find your market for them. You should check out this video.